Okay, folks, hopefully I have the right mic on and the right speakers turned on and all that good stuff so you can hear me. I just turned the recorder on. So we'll be recording each of these sessions that we do. First, just an idea, or really an explanation about the help session sort of idea. Because of the way in which we have to schedule some of these things during the summer, it's obviously not the greatest of times to do kind of intense content classes, and so we have to kind of work things in different ways. And so the university has never technically had 10-week sessions. They've only had 2 5-week sessions. And one 5-week session begins now and runs 5 weeks. And the second 5-week session begins around July 4th and runs for 5 weeks. And so that's the only 2 real scheduling options during the summer is to do it in one of those 5-week blocks. What we have done in the past, we have run the course on a 10-week schedule, and then just finagled the, when grades were due and when, census dates were due and things like that, seemed to be important to administrators. And we've kind of gotten into the circumstance these days where the administration in Raleigh, in terms of the overall University of North Carolina system, has kind of decided we ought to do things by the book, and if we don't like the book, we should rewrite the book. So instead of finagling things like grades and census dates and things like that, we now are kind of bound into 2 5-week sessions. At least that's my understanding of what we kind of happened here. So that's the reason we're trying to do this thing in 5 weeks. It is shown as 100% online, and it is possible, and people have successfully done it 100% online. It is, I would think, slightly more difficult if you don't participate in some of these help sessions. And since it is 5 weeks, I will probably do at least 1 a week and maybe 2 a week, beginning next week when we get into the heaviest sort of content pieces to it. And then we'll kind of go from there. And one thing that I won't do, if nobody shows up, I'm out the door. I don't do that. And so I'm not going to do a help session if there's nobody here asking for help. The other basic notion that I have about these virtual and 100% online courses is that most of the work falls on your shoulders, because the learning becomes experiential, the learning becomes self-determined. Sort of the learning is as much discovery on your part as anything else. And my role is to provide you with adequate resources and materials and prompts and things like that to keep you moving and get you there in good shape. And I will do that. But just be aware that most of the load falls on your side. And there is no catching up. I mean, you can't take 2 weeks off and figure out you're going to catch up. It just doesn't quite work that way. It'll never happen in a 5-week session. I will meet with anyone and everyone as much and as many times as I can. Obviously, I have a life and other commitments, and I'm actually working with 3 doctoral students this summer, 2 committees I'm chairing, and another one we're trying to get going so we can begin collecting data. And I'm teaching 2 other courses the last 5 weeks. 2 that are different sections of a similar course content. And so the summer is quite busy, and but I will. It's not like in this month and next month I'm going anywhere. So we'll try to meet as much as possible. It's up to you to reach out. It's up to you to say, hey, I don't get this at all. Don't wait 3 days. Don't wait 2 days, send me an email, and we'll figure out how we can get together, probably Zoom, or we might do something as drastic and erratic as actually, an old time phone call. Sometimes those still work, and at least the last time I tried one, it worked. And so we will, spend as much time with you individually as you may need, or groups, but there will be help sessions. There will be, you have to contact me, you have to email me, you have to let me know we need to meet, and we'll schedule something and set it up. And it'll probably be within a day or two at most, um, depending on your schedules and my schedules, and things like that. As I said, I don't think we'll be going anywhere much at all, except on a few weekends in June and July. Just got back a week and a half ago from a nice little trip to Massachusetts, in which we got to see our grandchildren for the first time in well over a year, and first time ever for our grandson, who was born 1st of February. So, those things are important. Family is always first to me, and so you need to be aware that I do have sympathetic ears in terms of if you have family issues or whatever. But we do have 5 weeks to work with, and we'll try to get you to the point you need to be. Any questions about any of that before we kind of see what other questions you may have, or I'll anticipate a few that you probably do have right at this moment. So
is it typically going to be 2 topics a week?
Yeah, well, maybe, I don't know. The thing was built for 15. This particular outline was built around a semester, and so the topics are really kind of broken up in ways that I probably wouldn't do it if I were to suddenly have the time to be able to put it in a 5-week format. I will put up each week the topics that we need coming up. In 5 weeks, will we probably not get quite as much content done as we would in 10 or a semester? Yeah, probably not. But we will get most of the essential stuff that you need done. And some of the stuff that every now and then I like to talk about are fluffy stuff that is interesting or useful, or of a particular interest to an individual, we may not get to. And if an individual, if there's something that you want to ask me about or talk about or explore or go a little bit deeper, that's always open too. I mean, just let me know and we'll figure out how to do it. I have been doing this a long time. I taught my first course in January of 1978, which, yes, is long before you were born. And my PhD is in research and evaluation from the University of Virginia, and I have postdoc work at Stanford in advanced statistical analysis. And so I've been doing this for 40 some years, and so it is a lot of this stuff is kind of second nature to me. It's kind of at the subconscious level, and so I may not anticipate something that you don't understand, and it'll be up to you to kind of let me know what that is, because to me the logic of statistics is insanely simple. And of all the courses I teach, this is probably the one that I would much prefer to do most of the time, because stats is just kind of second nature to me. I do realize that you have some anxieties, and I do realize that you have some small misconceptions about the nature of statistics. There are only a couple of basic ideas in it. That's it. There are only a couple, and we'll get those out of the way right away with this notion of error and this notion of normal distributions and things like that. Those are only two real basic monumental thought processes in statistics. The rest of it is just how you uh, combine different elements to answer different types of questions with different types of data. And the logic is very similar all the way through for all the different procedures, things like that. And so it's not a it's not a math course. It's not a terribly difficult course. We won't do formulas. Yeah, I may demonstrate something with a formula, but even that will be shortcutted, and you won't get the full-blown formula with all the I's and P's and F's and all that sort of stuff. You'll get the simplified, abbreviated version of it. So it's not this is not designed to be a difficult piece of content. It's designed to be a skill that people in today's world almost always will need in today's professional world, because we are all about data. I mean, data is kind of what drives the cart, so to speak. We can't get there without an understanding of data. And my research backgrounds is mixed methods. I'm particularly, I guess, skilled in the quantitative side, but I'm also very skilled in the qualitative side, and have done a lot of research and worked with a lot of research teams and doing different sorts of things. Medical research is not I haven't been involved in a lot of that. I've been involved in a few medical research studies when they had a need of a statistician that had a little bit more horsepower for what they were doing. And then it was, they just told me what I needed to know and gave me the data and stayed out of the way. And so it was, working with data is sort of an innate thing with me. I don't question it, and I don't necessarily fight it and all that sort of stuff. So if you do have anxieties, you have misperceptions or things like that, we'll get through it. Don't worry about it. I've never left anybody standing in the middle of the road yet. I mean, we get there. And I always make a promise to people, even after the course is over, if you have a statistical question or you have something that's just not making sense, or it's just not clicking, that involves data and research and statistics and or whatever, you just send me an email. I'll be glad to help. I'll try to help you figure that out, or I'll steer you to some resources that'll help you figure it out yourself, which I think is always the best learning. The best learning is discovery and repetition. Everything we know about neuroscience tells us that. And so, what you discover and what you discover through repetition are things that you hang on to, and stuff that you're told or demonstrated to, and you don't necessarily hang on to that very long if you don't have a need to repeat it over and over and over again. So yeah, it's a bit about me, a bit about my philosophy. I am one of the old guys around here. I'm let's put it this way, I'm a septuagenarian. What is that? 70 something sept? Yeah, I'm a septuagenarian. And yeah, doing well. Retired at a moment, probably not, because got nothing to do. What the hell would I do? And those of you in the medical field will understand I have a really bad degenerative arthritis in my back. And so there are limits as to what I could do anyhow, outside of walking, the dog and getting plenty of walking exercise in. It's not like I'm going to go work downstairs in my shop or do a lot of work in the garden or, build bookcases or whatever. It's just, not possible. So, what would I do? I'll do what I'm doing until somebody says, hey, turn out the lights, you're out of here, go away. Hey, cutie. Kids are welcome, dogs are welcome, cats are welcome. Well, cats are, cats are welcome too. I have a cat, and we have a brand new little 4-month-old miniature schnauzer, a white one that we're have discovered that we had forgotten how difficult it is to train a dog. They're much smarter than you, so it's kind of like you have to figure out how to train them to let you win and yet get their own way. And that's, yeah, that's what dogs do. Anyhow, I ramble. I'm sorry, I ramble. I'll stay very focused on content when I have content questions or when we're dealing with content. But there's not much to be afraid of here. I mean, this is I mean, if this were difficult, they wouldn't let me teach you. It's kind of where I operate from. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I just had a question in terms of what the content will be like for the midterm and the final. And I do want to say I really appreciate obviously the care that you've taken to outline the content that is in As You Learn, because I have found it to be very well organized and intuitive. So I do appreciate what you've selected.
Well, some of it needs fixing right now, but you know, this 5-week thing threw me for a little bit of a loop. And so I haven't, I got to update some videos and, you know, lots of stuff like that. But yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, and that's kind of what I think 40 years of experience does for you, is that you kind of, the logic becomes more important than the procedure. And so you do things in a way that makes sense to me. And I've always had very highly rated, you know, classes and statistics that I've dealt with. And so I think evidently the logic makes sense to people too. I keep people, you know, publishers keep wanting me to write a book about it, but at the same time, you know, it sounds like an awful lot of work for no money. Because, you know, you write a textbook, you get about zip dollars out of it by the time everybody takes their cut. So an awful lot of work. So yeah, but it does make sense, I think, logically to me. And if it doesn't, then, you know, let me know and we'll figure it out. Figure out how to get there. Midterm and final. A philosophy that I have that I followed for probably at least 30 years plus, is a notion of mastery learning. I did spend some time working with a researcher that was into sort of the cognitive neuroscience sort of area. And once again, it was one of those things where he had a need, or she had a need for a stats person that could take it up a couple of notches, but didn't really need to know what she was working on, because at first I didn't understand it, and later on it did. And so some things became very clear to me. And one is that learning is a matter of repetition. I don't care at what level, whether it's higher level thought processes or lower level thought processes, you cannot underestimate the value of repetition and practice. And then there's that whole novice to expert thing, or, you know, conscious to subconscious or unconscious or whatever terms you want to put on it. But, you know, your mind does create patterns around things. And once something becomes a pattern and it becomes very ingrained in you, then you don't think about it. And we all have experiences of that, you know, about things you do on the job or things you did when you learned to drive or playing an instrument or playing a sport or whatever. You know, it was a matter of repetition, but once, you know, I believe it or not, I was actually fairly athletic in my younger days, and was in the Army, and was a you know, airborne scout sort of thing in the Army back during the Vietnam era. And so, you know, I was fairly athletic and all, and I did learn very quickly that, you know, it was about practice and repetition in the work. And because when you got into a game, or when you got into, you know, something happening in the Army, and it was, you know, falling out of a plane or jumping out of a plane or a firefight or whatever, you couldn't think about it. You don't have time to think. And so you operate in an intuitive way. And, you know, in some of the medical centers I've been around, when there's a, you know, a code or something like that, and everybody's, you know, there seems to be all this chaos that breaks out all of a sudden, but it's very organized chaos, because it's people doing what they practice to do for a long period of time and a whole lot of repetitions. And so they don't think about it. They just do it. And to me, that's the deepest form of learning. And that's what I kind of shoot for. And the approach to that is generally mastery models. You know, you repeat things enough and you build a level of mastery with them so that, you know, you kind of build things on top of other things. And so I don't anticipate, you know, that you will know everything you need to know about what I'd like you to know in this course by the midterm. You know, the midterm is really a no threat evaluation. You know, it'll be, you know, primarily statistical, maybe a couple of other questions on it, but mostly statistical, in which I'll give you a data set and you'll use JASP, or if you have another, you know, statistical piece of software that you're used to using, feel free. I can't necessarily support all of them, but feel free. And then you'll answer those questions and use that data. And I will, the minute that it closes, the minute that the curtain closes on that exam, or very quickly after that, I'll put up the answer sheet with as much detail as I can, and I'll put up a video in which we kind of walk through each of those items. And then we'll ask you if you have, you know, questions about it or things that you need to square away. Let me know, and we'll work through it. And I'll give you you know, another data set to kind of play around with a little bit, just to, you know, work through those things that you may have had some issues with. And then the final exam is similar. You'll be due a few days early so that it, you know, I can give you the answer sheet and you can figure out, you know, what you did wrong and how you did it wrong. And to me, that's a very important part of mastery too. Not being told that something's wrong, but being told that, okay, here are the right answers and here's the process and the right tables to work with and things like that. And so, you know, it's mostly self-graded. Obviously, I'll be checking it off as we go along. There is absolutely no reason why everybody doesn't get to the end of the course and have an A walking out the door. You know, my field's assessment and evaluation, and so I know an awful lot about that too. And I know that we do a lot of stuff in higher ed that's just out and out dumb in terms of assessment, and really doesn't tell us much about what people have mastered and what they can do with the things that they may have learned. And so I believe in that sort of mastery model. Does that help? Does that kind of explain? I know I went a long way around the bend there to kind of get back to your original question, but, you know, does that help?
I think so.
Are the exams timed?
Lord, no. Only in if there's a deadline, you know, you'll get them. They'll be up there, you know, a week ahead of time, and the data set will be up there a week at a time. And you can use all your examples that we may have done in class, and you can use anything that you've worked on. And you know, at this point in your professional career, this is not a guess what I'm thinking exercise. This is, let's get you enough experience working with these processes that they become of utility to you. And so, you know, the only thing that's timed is the deadline. You know, they'll be up there several days before the deadline, and you know, that's the only thing timed is the deadline. Yeah, I always operate on the assumption anyhow that if you cheated on something, you just cheated yourself. It's not going to bother me. You know, it's not going to change my life if you know, shortcut a lot of things. But it will change yours if you have a habit of shortcutting things. And so I don't worry about, you know, things like that, because I think you're all, you know, professionals and adults, and you'll do what you want to do. And I'm assuming most of you will operate with a fair amount of, you know, professional integrity. I think the thing we do in education that's really bad is we make things so that failure is an expected outcome. We want people to struggle and we want people to fail. And maybe that's okay as a concept, but it's not okay as a grading concept. You know, I don't want anybody to fail. I want everybody to be successful. And I know there will be, I can't make it smooth and easy for all of you. It'll be more frustrating for some of you than others. And it's just nature, it's human nature. But once again, that's also how you learn. You learn through trial and error and frustration and working through frustrations and things like that. And, so a lot of what I do and how I approach it now is based in sort of, at least my understanding of some of the cognitive neuroscience that's out there. And if somebody comes along and says, okay, everybody has to be happy and everybody has to be having fun in what they're doing, and that's the best way to learn, then I'll learn some jokes and I'll do like everybody else does. But until the science and the research tells me that that's actually the way it works, I'll keep doing the sort of the way I do things. And I would just as soon not do grades at all. I'd as soon get to a point where at the end you take the final thing, and if you've mastered the stuff, you move on to the next thing you do. I mean, I think grades are a capitalistic invention at the last part of the 19th century, because we wanted schools to be like everything else in our society and be competitive. Shouldn't be, but anyhow, that's I'm an old style 60s liberal. After even though I spent a couple of years in the Army, I'm always more of a progressive liberal sort of ideas. And I believe people's lives are their own, and what you do with your life is your own business, and all those things that I got enough trouble just keeping track of my own life. I don't need to bother about yours. I don't mean that uncaringly. Okay, I hope you take that the right way. It's just that I'm not your dad, although I am probably old enough to be a grandfather in lots of cases, but I'm not I'm not that person. So I'm trying to give you a pretty good read on me too, because you really ought to know who you're dealing with. That's always important, I think, in an educational setting, to know who you're dealing with. And I'm been tenured at 3 or 4 different institutions, and been a vice president for institutional effectiveness, and a director of institutional research, and an interim associate dean, and a university director of student assessment, and faculty member and department head. So there are not many things that go on in higher ed, or many things that go on in many of the professional fields that I haven't experienced in some way, shape, or form. Never been fired. Gotten every job I applied for except for 1 or 2 that I decided I didn't want after I applied for them. So it's been good to me. And obviously, if my son bought me this brass placket that goes on my door, my office door, in this old 1908 big old Main Street house that is a constant drain on our resources. He bought a nice little brass plaque to go on the door of my office back over there, and it says bullshit corner. And so that's his perspective of what I do, but my perspective is I just tell you what I know or my experiences and go from there.
Do you know which day of the week and what time the help sessions?
I am going to try to get a settle on a couple of different days. Wednesday seems to work for some people, and so we'll keep Wednesdays. I don't know when you have another class. I mean, are you all in a cohort model, or is this unclear? You're not sure?
I think we're in a cohort, and we have another class, and her sessions, Dr. Nunnery's sessions, are on Tuesday evenings.
All right. Well, I'll probably stick with Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. Probably not Monday, because nobody wants a help session on Monday. Guys, just getting into the week, recover from the weekend. And nobody wants anything. So yeah, it looks like Wednesday and Thursday. And I'll see how it goes. I'll starting next week, I'll plan on doing Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll see how it plays out. And if I get a lot of attention, a lot of attendance, at one and not in at the other, the next week I'll just mention that and I'll say, hey, I'm planning on doing Wednesday and Thursday, but last Thursday nobody showed up, or only one person showed up, or whatever. So, and I'm more than glad to talk to them. But if you don't need me to do two, don't expect me to hang around. Yeah. So probably Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, but not this Thursday. No.
And you think it'll be at 6 p.m.?
It could be 6. Yeah. I mean, I could flex that. I could make it later. I could make it earlier.
I was going to ask if you did 2 during the week, if there's a way that one of those could possibly be held around 7. 6 is just a bit quick sometimes for at the
Sure.
end of the workday.
Yeah, we can do a one at 6, one at 7, or we can do both of them at 7. I don't care. I'll work it. Man,
Thank
my
you.
bedtime's not till these days 10:30 or so. So anytime, just so I get it done before bedtime. Yeah. So we'll plan on we'll plan this. We'll plan on this. I can't meet tomorrow. I have to be. My wife has some medical tests to take care of, and sort of stuff. We both, have multiple doctors everywhere. So, but anyhow, it's one of those deals where you book something. We couldn't book it during pandemic, so she had to book it soon after she could. And so probably take most of the day. So Thursday's not good this week, but after this week, I'll plan on 6 o'clock on Wednesday and 7 o'clock on Thursday. Or we could flip that either way. I don't care. Or 7 both nights. I don't, if you 6 1 half that's the other. I would, but we'll just start 6 next Wednesday and 7 next Thursday. Now, remember, the offer is always open. You don't have to wait till Wednesday or Thursday. You can send me an email, tell me, I know you said not to worry, but I can't get beyond the point that maybe you're lying to me. No, maybe not that way. That would be, probably not a great way to approach it. But anyhow, if you need clarification or talk, or you shoot me an email about something, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. I'm reading a lot of stuff right now, and so I may stick with something for a little while before I can get right back to you, but we will respond as quickly as I can. And if we need a one-on-one, we'll set it up. But the main thing is, is to make sure that you keep up and make sure that you look at the videos that are up there and follow through the kind of the exercises. Right now, and I know this is not something that you're dying to do, but right now, probably one of the prime things you need to do or have to do is, if you haven't loaded JASP onto a computer, you need to do that. Or if you have another established program that you use and are familiar with, and if you have access to SPSS, that's fine. If you have access to SAS, that's fine. If you have access to Excel, that's fine. I just can't support all of those with examples at the same time. And JASP was built by about 400 different university faculty members around the world as a teaching tool. And it's a powerful piece of statistical software. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to get into. It makes some decisions for you, so it shortcuts things a little bit. But if you're not a high-end stats person, user anyhow, JASP makes just as much sense, if not more sense, than anything else. Excel is limited. It's a limited statistical platform. It's a wonderful platform for working with data, coding, transpose, do all kinds of things with data. Excel is great. When I was a director of institutional research, I had in my office, I had 3 screens up, and each one of them had a different database on it because in their infinite wisdom, the Virginia Community College system didn't have all of their systems up on the same platforms. And so we had one for student information, one for, sort of operational information, one, just, and so you're always dealing with 3 or 4 databases at the same time. And the only way I could, bring those together and make some sense out of them most of the time was using Excel. But then once you get the data together, you still have to analyze it with something else. So JASP is great. Give it a whirl. Don't get frustrated. Follow the videos, tutorials, those sorts of things, and you should be just fine with it. That's really one key thing you need to be doing right now. And then doing some of the basic reading. I'll put up some more resource reading stuff in the next day or so about some more of the content elements that we'll be moving into, next week or so. And, next week will be a big catch up. We'll try to get all the content elements from the first week and all the new stuff from the second week. And, I'll focus heavily on all of that in the help sessions. Some of them may look a little bit more like a class and less like a help session, but, we'll do, focus on your questions as much as we can as we get into that. So next week at 6 on Wednesday and 7 on Thursday. Questions, comments, gripes, yells. I know I haven't done any content tonight, and I didn't intend to, unless you had a question that you wanted to get deeply into right away. I just wanted you to know the nature of the course, who you're dealing with, and kind of how I get into things. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be watching those videos and trying to pick up as much of that stuff as you can. You should. Are we good? Are we got questions?
All good here. Thank you for going through all that with us, getting us set up.
Yeah, I think, don't worry about it. We'll get you through this. Just, just be intentional about, taking the class and working with the class, and you'll be just fine. We'll get through this. I wish I had time to ask everybody about your backgrounds and learn more about you, but we'll pick up on as much of that as we can as we go along. I talk a lot about my family and stuff like that, so you'll get to know me really well. But well, I'll leave you with this one thing. Back in my Army experiences years and years and years ago, 1971, 73, I was, for a good portion of that, ended up being stationed at Fort Myers at Arlington National Cemetery. And I was a member of the Old Guard Regiment, Company D, 1st Battalion, 3rd Infantry. And for a brief period of time, about a couple of months or so, 2.5 months, I filled in at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for a person on one of the teams who had broken a leg, on one of our exercise things. And since I was there when he broke his leg, it was kind of felt that I should be the one that filled in for him. So, and of all my experiences in life, that was the most fulfilling one, but it also was the most wrought emotional experience, 2 months that I ever had walking the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And so it's, that made an impression on me in my life that I didn't think was going to be there for a 60s liberal, radical sort of guy. But it did. Okay, folks, have a great evening. You know, kind of figure out how you're going to process this course, how you're going to get things done. And then, you know, let's roll. Let's get going. And there's not much on this recording that's really worth listening to a second time, but it will go up on As You Learn. A link to YouTube will go up on As You Learn sometime, probably later this evening, or depending on how I get sidetracked, it might be first thing in the morning. So y'all have a good evening, and I will be here next week if you want to drop by.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Bye-bye.